All right, another letter came in from Schaeffer Cox. It's the evening of December the 10th, 2016. And it's actually a response letter that Schaeffer wrote to an individual who initially wrote him a letter. And because they limit who Schaeffer can talk to, all these hoops have to be jumped through. But anyway, here's what Schaeffer wrote to the individual who initially wrote him. And I'm not going to mention their name because I haven't really got approval to do that. All right, here goes. Hello, I got your letter from November the 12th that talked about deer hunting and packing food bags for starving children. I also got a really sweet letter from Ruth that she wrote after a bad dream. I'm up to my ass in alligators with all the legal work I have to do. But when I read Ruth's letter, I had to stop what I was working on and write her a reply. And now that I just reread your letter, I see a lot of what I said in my last letter answers your questions about the God of all comfort from your recent letter. I sent copies of that reply to a few key people on the outside. I hope it made it out of the prison. And I hope that it's okay with you that I did that. I got done saying all I had to say to Ruth, then realized that there are probably a lot of people out there who need to hear it too. Your letter stirred up wonderful memories. In Alaska, it's all about moose hunting. That's good times. Those good times all came flooding back as I read about your adventures out deer hunting. My last moose hunting trip before the feds took me out was a good one. I took my 3-year-old son Seth with me. He's 9 now. We loaded four-wheelers in the plane and flew out to the mine. It's in the foothills of the Alaska Range south of Fairbanks, where I lived. The runway is grass when we built it, and we put a curve in it so claim jumpers would be scared to try to land there. Landing there is no big deal for a seasoned bush pilot, but it always feels more like a controlled crash than a landing. Seth loved it. He would be bouncing up and down with excitement, making airplane noises. We shot a bunch of moose, then flew them all back to the hangar in town where the whole family processed it into thousands of pounds of steak and burger. We only hunted at dusk and dawn, so during the day we went berry picking. We got 10 to 15 gallons of blueberries, cranberries, and raspberries, and we probably ate as much too. We were hundreds of miles from the nearest road in the beautiful cabin that sat on top of 60-foot cliffs that hung over the river. It was in September, so the birch trees and alder were turning. The air had that damp chill of departing summer, and the sweet smell of once frosted berries hung in the forest. It was a great trip. My son almost never left my side. It's hard to hunt with a 3-year-old in tow, but I wanted to watch my boy discovering the world more than I wanted to bag every last moose we saw. And as it turns out, 3-year-olds learn really fast how to be perfectly quiet when they see the moose. He would cover his ears with both hands and waller around on my back while I tried to get some shots off at the moose. When we walked up on a downed 1,800-pound moose, it was like walking up on a dinosaur for him. Seth was awe-struck, but he was one of the guys. He worked with me and the other men in the hunting party to field dress the moose. He held the game bags open as we filled them with meat. He wanted so... Let me pause here. All right, continuing on. He wanted to help cut the tendons as we quartered it up, so we let him. He fell asleep on the four-wheelers as we rode back to the cabin that day. Then he slept like a tired lumberjack that night. The sight of him sleeping in the glow of the Coleman lantern is stuck in my mind. He had gotten his first taste of frontier life that day, and there was so much more for him to explore and discover. And because it was all brand new for him, it was new all over again for me. It snowed 8 inches that night, which would keep us from taking off until the runway melted on its own, or until we cleared it. As I watched the big, silent flakes float down, I knew we would be stuck for a few days. And that was fine, because it would be one more adventure to overcome with my little pal Seth by my side. I went over to him and ran my hand over his silky blonde hair, and I kissed his little forehead and smelled that warm, cuddly smell of a sleeping child who has played outside all day. I slipped him out of his little brown Carhartt, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Carhartt overalls, and tucked him into a down sleeping bag, and I hung his overalls by the wood stove. I found that the pockets were loaded with berries. I chuckled softly as I looked back at him sleeping. That's my boy, I thought to myself. He probably picked half a gallon of berries all by himself today, and he ate all he could too. But he still filled both pockets full. He must be planning for a rainy day. I didn't dare steal his berries, so I rinsed them and dried them with a towel, then put them back in his pockets and hung them by the stove. The next morning I explained to him that we were stuck because of the snow, but that we would be fine. We made pancakes, and I asked him if he wanted to dump his blueberries in the batter. He did. So I got him his overalls. Before I could stop him, he just dumped the pocket full of blueberries straight into the batter. I bit my tongue rather than scold him as leaves and pine needles went into the mix along with the berries. If he didn't mind, neither did I. So blueberry pine needle pancakes it was. We both ate a big stack and watched the snow fall the rest of the morning. I had no idea that would be my last hunting season with my son. When that jury got fooled into returning a guilty verdict, my heart just turned into smoke and left my body. It was like watching all I held dear suddenly die in an accident. That was the point when I realized that even if I won, eventually it would not happen before my children were grown. Our family got robbed that day. We had our ability to be together taken away by the feds, who have nothing but seething jealousy and spite for wholesome, God-fearing people. I'd give anything to spare other families the pain that mine has been through at the hands of these vicious liars. My son is so grown up now, and I have only seen my daughter once in her life. I only hope that my story can serve as an alarm to my fellow countrymen. We are being eaten by a sneaky evil, but it's within our power to right the wrongs and keep families safe. Thank you for writing. It lifts my spirit. I'll send a copy of this to Rudy so it will get out. So it will have the chance of getting out. This too shall pass. Schaeffer Cox. All right. I hope you guys remember to write Schaeffer Cox letters. I know that he said he may not be able to write each and every one of you individually back because they limit his list of who he can write back. But I know he loves receiving encouraging letters from you guys. God bless, and we're going to remain faithful unto death, and we're going to trust in the Lord God Almighty, whose name is Jesus Christ, no matter what. We're going to fear God more than we fear these vicious, lying, murdering feds. All right, take care. God bless.